Welcome, everyone. My name is Sean O'Neill. I'm a partner in the Toronto offices of McCarthy Tétrault, a national law firm here in Canada. I'm also the head of our National Energy Group. I'd like to welcome you all on behalf of the over 800 lawyers that we have here in Canada. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking to Mr. Jean-Pascal Tricoire. He is the chairman and chief executive officer of Schneider Electric. And I think there's no one better to speak on this topic today of green for growth. So if I could give, if you would indulge me, I'll give a brief introduction of Jean-Pascal. So in addition to being the chairman and chief and CEO of Schneider Electric, he also leads their Asia business as the chairman and regional president of Schneider Electric Asia Pacific. Jean-Pascal was appointed as chairman of the management board in 2006 and then chairman and CEO in 2013. Prior to these roles, Mr. Tricoire was the chief operating officer of Schneider Electric. Jean-Pascal, you've been with Schneider Electric for over 35 years, and I understand that you've lived all over the world and are currently residing in Hong Kong, although we find you today here in New York. I understand that you're committed to creating a more sustainable and inclusive future for all through the use of technology and digital innovation. And it seems that you're bringing that commitment to your stewardship of Schneider Electric, which I think all of our audience knows is a global leader in advancing digital transformation of energy management and automation. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak to our audience today.
Sean, thank you very much for having me today. Well, it's clear that I am, on Schneider, is passionate about transforming the world of energy and automation. And we've soon realized that energy was absolutely core to the issue of sustainability and the fight against climate change, because if you want to make it simple, climate change is 80% about carbon emission, and carbon emission is 80% again about the way we produce and we consume energy. So, as you mentioned it, 18 years ago, when I was then the keys of the company to become CEO, and then chairman of the company, we decided to embark with my team in trying to define a contrarian positioning of the company, which was making sure we help our customers to make the most of their energy and resources. That means achieving more while using less of the resources. And very soon, it brought us to technology disruption, the first one being digitization for much more efficiency in everything we do in a different manner, with lower cost point and with fast return on investment. And the second one is massive move to electrification, because electrification is the only way to decarbonize. And that is that combination of energy management, as you said, on automation, which makes that today we engage with our customers as being their digital partner for the more global scope or objective of sustainability and efficiency, because at the end of the day, efficiency is a way to be more sustainable. So in a nutshell, thank you for having me today. I think we are like-minded in talking about that subject of technology at the service of sustainability.
Well, I suspect that is very much the case, and I do very much want to get into a discussion more about your specific business and your products and your technology. But maybe let's back up slightly if we could. So the topic we're discussing today is green for growth, and that's, in my mind, that's the notion that you can have commercial and business success through environmental sustainability. Your company has made a number of ESG commitments, particularly around the environment and sustainability. And I noted, as I was doing a quick web search, that the Corporate Knights identified Schneider Electric as 2021's most sustainable company in the Global 100 Index. So congratulations on that. But how did Schneider get there? Maybe like I expect that this is very much a large part of your influence and your leadership. But Why is sustainability important to you? And maybe you could tell us about the moment 18 years ago or prior to that when you decided that this was something that needed to be integrated into Schneider's business.
I'm going to repeat a little bit what I said, but you cannot dissociate energy from fight against climate change and sustainability. At the end of the day, if we want to resolve the deadlock of climate change, we need to address two contradictory inputs. First, make sure that everybody in the world has access to energy, because I've been, as you said, living in many different parts of the world. I've lived in China in the 90s when energy was scarce. I was in charge of sub-Saharan Africa for a period. And you realize how much access to energy is a passport for anybody in the world to a decent life, to a life, actually, right? And together with that, we can't dissociate energy from digital, because if energy is your passport to a decent life, digital is your passport to inclusion in the world through education and economic inclusion. So the two things cannot be dissociated. But at the same time, we discovered somewhere earlier, but really we became aware that the way we are dealing with energy is in a deadlock. Like the way we do it today is emitting carbon. Today we are absolutely on the wrong trajectory. So let's make it very simple. In the next coming 20 years, we have on one side to provide more energy to roughly 2 billion people on Earth. It's a little bit more than the usually said 1 billion. And at the same time, we've got to cut emissions by a factor of 2. And there are two ways of looking at the situation, either saying that what we've done in the past will be good for the future, and you can be sure that if you have to add 2 more billion to energy saving, you can't cut emissions, so we are truly in a deadlock, or you have to try to be an energy optimist, which we've always been at Schneider, and say that we are able to develop technologies which allow us to bridge progress on sustainability for all. We cannot just fall back on the already developed and rich part of the world, which, by the way, are a tiny part of the world population, and say this is not our problem. We have to accommodate those billions of people who don't have access to it today. So this is what we've taken as a positioning 20 years ago, or 18 years ago. And that was very contrarian, as I said it, because at that time, the world was all about drilling more, extracting more, burning more as a solution. And we say, no, this, because I'd lived in those very large megapole of Asia, which were already very polluted. I'd lived personally into places that were already destroyed by pollution, like in Africa. And we thought we needed to invent a new model. And at that time, were happening two technology disruptions that make this reconciliation possible. One is the Internet of Things, applying the Internet that was at that time revolutioning the Internet of people, the way we live, the way we work together, revolution in everything. See, today we have an interview on Zoom, and applying it to our environment, on making sure that everything we do was done with much more efficiency, with not so much cost to be incurred. On the other one, really working hard on making sure that everything would be more electrical, and that electricity would be low carbon. And it has taken 18 years, but really those two technologies have grown up together. You've seen renewable costs, storage costs, digitization costs, the connectivity costs falling down, those technologies becoming very pervasive. And today we are able to build net zero buildings, net zero manufacturing plants at costs which are extremely competitive and with a very short return on investment. Let's say less than 3 years, and I know many cases which are below that. We just have, so technologies do exist. The problem is bigger than ever. And if I want to, and I think we're at a tipping point. And that tipping point comes from the fact that the world is now truly aware that climate change is probably our biggest challenge. And for me, one of the key turning points has been 3 years ago when the investment community, the financial community, has started to hold CEOs on board accountable not only for their financials, but also for their extra financials. So what we had been doing at Schneider for now 15 years was becoming mainstream. That means reducing our own carbon footprint on improving our sustainability performance, and at the same time changing the profile of the company to make sure our business would be serving sustainability.
Well, I understand, and I certainly can hear the passion and commitment from your perspective, Jean-Pascal. I guess, but let me ask you. So some people might say that being the CEO of your company, it's easy to make the change corporate wide, and despite the fact that you've done these things, achieved these things with Schneider. And despite the fact, as you say, investors over the last several years have been insisting on ESG objectives in the companies and that they invest in, there still may be people who are reluctant to embrace these kinds of goals. So, for those who may, to your counterparts who may be CEOs in other companies who perhaps feel that they're being dragged along in this or don't want to be dragged along in this, how would you persuade them that this should be as important to them as it is for you and Schneider?
Well, there are several elements that I think any CEO needs to integrate. I think my job as a CEO is twofold. One is to position the company in the right tailwind. It's very bad when you are a CEO to swim against the tide. It's bad on this, extremely bad as a CEO. And on the second point is to reduce the risk, because people who invest in the company or people who work for the company or customers who use our technologies don't want the company to disappear or to be at risk. And if you take those two entries, every decision you make in business has to be sustainable. So sometimes you hear about those big theoretical things about long-term, short-term. The reality is that our job is to position the company for the long term. And everything that you do, which is against the long term, is bound to backfire one day or the other one. The other point I would say to any CEO is that this story of opposing performance and sustainability is wrong, because at the end, sustainability is about being more efficient, and being more profitable is also being more efficient. On carbon emission, on resource leakages are just a byproduct of inefficiencies or wrong technologies. So aligning the two puts you in the right situation. The third point, frankly, is that technologies do exist. I understand that maybe 20 years ago people were saying too expensive, too complicated, but today most of the carbon emission can be addressed with existing technology. On the core of it is around digitization and electrification. It does exist and it is already competitive. And at the end, if you are really a CEO, we are leaders of people. I always believe that at the end of the day, great people make a great company, and you have to attract in a company the most talented of people. And I don't think any talented people would work today for a company that does not have a sustainability on the digitization agenda. So if you put all of this, you have an urgency to move, especially because I don't think we have the horizon of 2040 or the 2050. I think Canadians typically know that. They live very close to nature, very close to the Arctic Circle. There has been a melting of 7.5% every year over the past years. You see the permafrost now being attacked. It's not theoretical. I think some people were saying before, I'm doing sustainability for the grandkids. Most of us are saying selfishly now, I'm doing sustainability to take care of myself and the world I live today in. So if you put all of this, you've got all the motivations for a CEO to move and actually to make it a powerful catalyst to transform the company in the right manner.
Very interesting, and I think there's a lot of resonance to what you're saying, particularly about young people that are coming in the workforce today, and who those people, those people's goals, objectives, and who they want to work for. And I want to get around to talking a bit more about technology, but maybe we could get into a little bit more detail about Schneider Electric. So could you tell us how you've managed to adapt your business to respond to sustainability? Is there some specific things that you'd like to point to?
I think when you engage in a journey to sustainability, for us, it has meant redesigning our business without leaving our initial strengths, but redesigning our business to have a sustainability mission to our customers. So today we are the digital partner for our customers for sustainability, and which means today 70% of our business is green business by the European taxonomy, to take one referential, right? So helping our customers to reduce their carbon emission, reduce their energy consumption, reduce their resource consumption. And this has forced us, and that has been all positive for Schneider, to add more layers of added value on what we used to do. So today we are a large industrial and building software company, an energy software company, because digitization is your path to sustainability. We have even created a dedicated company for that, company called IEFA, which is listed in London, which is a company with a very significant market cap nowadays. We have had to go into consulting on services on the top of what we are doing before, which was products and control systems. So it has enriched considerably the profile of what we are doing. The second point, which I would say, is that when you engage in that kind of journey, you have to set sustainability goals for yourself. So, and you've seen in the past 3 years a flurry of companies raising up the bar for their own company on that one. So we've set to be carbon neutral on our own scope 1 and 2 by 2025, including scope 3 by 2040. On being net zero biodiversity loss by 2030. And that has triggered a lot of innovation and a lot of pride and engagement with our people. Also, we've engaged here, and I'll come back to that, the whole ecosystem. You've got to change the culture of the company. So sustainability is part of our incentive systems, short-term and long-term, mean bonus on the performance shares, and include those KPIs for sustainability. We've had to adapt the governance of our company. So we've got a sustainability committee at our board, an ESG committee. We've got one person representing ESG and actually in charge of strategy at the level of our executive committee. We are auditing our sustainability performance as we do for financial for now some time. And I suspect that most of the companies like Schneider have most of their carbon footprint with their suppliers. So we've engaged our thousands of suppliers on this journey, and we are helping them actually to improve their performance, which at the end makes that they can serve more customers who are also passionate or engaged on a sustainability journey. So it's quite a multifaceted and comprehensive transformation that you have to drive. But for us, it means we have tripled our size over the past 15 years and really done much better than this for our market cap. So it's a journey with a reward. And it puts your company in the right tailwind and diminishes the risk and creates the right culture to do so.
Interesting. Thank you. It sounds like the notion of sustainability and actual targets is very interesting, and obviously look forward to following and hearing how Schneider does with respect to those goals. Maybe we could talk about technology. So you've mentioned you've mentioned some of the products that Schneider Electric has produced, and how those help meet these goals. But aspirationally and for the future, and without trying to give away any sort of corporate secrets that you might have, if you could wave a magic wand today and come up with some sort of product for Schneider Electric to help meet governments and businesses meet their sustainability goals, any thoughts of what that might be or what that might look like?
I don't think we need any magic wand, and as industrialists, it's a good thing not to believe too much in Harry Potter and just to revert to science for progress. What I think is that we have everything we need in terms of technology, and I'm speaking about Schneider or peers of Schneider, but you have in the field of green electricity and as well as in the field of digitization enough available that we can really, we can really reconcile the equation of progress and sustainability for all. What I would say, the equation is very, very simple. We have to make everything we live in more efficient thanks to digital, not because digital is always nice, but digital allows you to achieve the same efficiency results as previous ways in a much shorter time with much less work and at a much lower cost. We have to organize, and for that, we have to retrofit many more of the buildings, plants we are operating today. Because the big problem in sustainability is not all the construction we do every year. Actually, very few of the stock of building is built in a year. What is important is to retrofit existing facilities. And to accelerate this retrofitting, we need to address it with technologies that allow a much faster and a much more economically viable way of doing it. Okay. The second point is really to organize circularity in all of the process. And there again, digital is absolutely essential because it traces resources across the life cycle of products. And then on the other side, on the supply side, it's about electrification, which today is only 20% of the energy we consume, and which in the next 20 years will be 40%. So it's going to be a massive electrification of everything around us. Think about it. We're going to invest in electricity as much in the next 20 years as we have invested since the beginning of electricity at the time of Edison. So it's a massive step up. The most fashionable of it is, of course, electric vehicle. Everybody is speaking about it, but it is by far not the biggest mass of this energy transition. The biggest transition will be with IT and will be with buildings. Buildings which are today heated with fossil fuels will be more and more using electricity as the temperature control vehicle. And finally, making sure that electricity, which today is produced largely by fossil fuel, today only 6% by renewable, we'll see that proportion going up to 40% in the next coming 20 years. So it's that combination of those four actions, which is more efficiency thanks to digitization, more circularity thanks to digitization, more electricity and more decarbonized electricity that will allow us to reduce carbon emissions. And it's possible. It's not a magic wand. And I would say problem is not technology. Problem is human beings. We struggle, all of us, to move to the next technology. And that has been true for the internet. Can you think about the time when we are hailing a cab with a hand? That has changed. In 20 years' time, we're going to realize that the way we manage our homes, buildings, plants is fundamentally different, and we will wonder why we have not gone faster while technologies were already existing.
Well, as someone who lives in a country where we're on by per capita one of the largest energy users in the world, because of our geography and our climate, I like hearing what you're saying in terms of becoming more efficient in that regard. And I guess you've touched on the technology piece. Just very briefly, can we continue to rely on technology, or is it really, is there more that has that become a crutch? Is it a liability for us to rely on technology for solutions?
I don't think so. You cannot speak of technology in generic terms. We have used a set of technologies to come to that point of development. We're going to rely, and I already spoke about it, right? Electrical and digital, another set of technology to reach to an even higher level of development while using less of the resources. At the end of the day, it's pretty simple. Carbon is just a byproduct of burning, right? If there is less burning, there's going to be less carbon. Now, does it mean that we are, at least me, climate radical? I'm not. In 20 years' time, there will be still the need for fossil fuels because some of the processes cannot be abated, cannot be transformed. And still, as we say, there will be more population. And I don't think like the depths of Africa or some parts of large continents will be completely electrified and will be able to do that. And anyway, it's all about the mix of technologies. So we see a future that's going to be a more balanced mix between fossil fuels and electrical and especially renewable, all using digitization for better usage and optimization of what we do. And as we go forward, we have to be very lucid that we need all of that, and that we need to work based on digitization and electrification to make the oil and gas industry more performing in carbon. And at the same time, we need to go more electrical process to fully decarbonize some part of our society. But there is no magic wand, as we said here. There is a lot of common sense to be applied. And again, technology, if you take it in a very positive, negative and positive manner, but I would say I would like to stay optimist. First generation to discover that there is climate change, but also the first generation to invent the technologies which allow us to resolve this issue.
Fantastic. I guess just do you have any last thoughts for our audience on the topic, Jean-Pascal?
No, I just think, Sean, that the problem of climate change on the challenge of our relationship to energy used to be dealt with quite lightly in the past or taken for granted, that there was a formula and nothing would change. I would think that in the past 5 years, public opinion, the world has really changed from that point of view, because we see a multiplication of issues everywhere in the world which are climate related. You don't see much climate deniers anymore. And I also believe that all of us, one way or the other, have some relationship with nature. I won't explain that to a Canadian. Nature is absolutely fantastic in your country. That there is just need to be a great sense of urgency, because it's not about 20 years to change a course or to correct the course. Those phenomena are exponential. When you melt the ice cap in the Arctic, you change a reflecting surface by an absorbing surface, and that accelerates the impact. And I don't think either that it's a question of young people against experienced people, to be polite. It's about us as human beings, and it's about our time. It's not like it's going to happen in 2 generations. The process is on climate change, with already profound implications, profound potential of disrupting our life. I believe from that point of view, even if completely unrelated, the COVID has proven us that a small virus could put at risk our lifestyle. If this is true for a small virus, imagine what a big climate change can do to our lifestyle. It can just destroy it. So time for us and responsibility for all of us, whatever our generation, to act together with common sense, not with radical judgments, applying the database, science-based kind of reasoning to it. We have to wait to solve it. You just need to do it, and to do it now.
Well, thank you very much for your leadership, for your insights. I'm sure that our audience greatly appreciates both, and it's been delightful for me to speak to you today. Thank you very much, Jean-Pascal.
Thank you for having me, Sean.